Hey, good morning, everybody. Wow, tons of you on here already. That's awesome. Welcome to Greater Life, Greater Impact. Today, we are going to be talking about seasonal shifts and changes, how to ascend during these seasonal transitions that we all go through and that the world, the planet, is going through right now. So buckle up, grab a pencil and a paper. You're probably going to want to take some notes or at least journal about some of the things that you notice for you. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. Before we do that, you can always grab the replays to any and all of the classes that we've held over the course of this entire year over at janetthurgood.com. A lot of those classes have handouts that come with them, and it's just a really great way to enjoy all of these classes for the entire year, and I highly recommend it if you would like to review these. Some of them have gone up over on my YouTube channel, which is Greater Life, Greater Impact, and you can always access that on my Facebook profile. Just scroll through the comments, and you can get access to that stuff there. All right, okay. Let me do a screen share. Let's just jump into this because I want to talk about some of the changes that the globe, that the Earth is seeing right now, and how that might be literally impacting you without maybe you even knowing it. So we're going to come over here. Sorry, I should have had this already. We're going to expand that. All right. So we are coming through a massive eclipse portal right now. Many of you know that the eclipse portal, we go through several different eclipses throughout the year, but this one is kind of a doozy. And it started October the 25th, and it will come to fruition. This eclipse will come to a fruition on November the 4th of 2022. So I want you to just kind of consider that, ponder on it a little bit. What happens when we go through eclipses is that the energy shifts and it changes. And what this creates is binaries. So eclipses bring change because they create these polar opposite energies. And so I put down here hope and despair. And I think this is a really great analogy of the eclipse portal, what's the word? The characteristics, I guess, the things to watch for during this particular shift that we're all coming through on the Earth. And so you see the polar opposites of the energy of hope versus the energy of despair. And this is what eclipse portals bring, is opposites and opposition. And so you see down here on the left, hope brings a possibility for a new world, new experiences, or something better. Despair is the opposite energy of that. It represents the absence of meaning, the absence of hope, the absence of direction. You start to wonder, who am I? Where am I? What is life about? What is the meaning of life? And if you have the absence of meaning, the absence of hope, and the absence of direction in your life, you're going to feel that very unique energy of despair. So, but just by shifting your attention and shifting your awareness, you can move into the opposite energy. And so that's what I want to talk about today, is how do we navigate through this kind of a binary, I guess, that is being created by this eclipse that we're all coming through. And so just to reiterate a little bit, the dates on that, this eclipse portal in particular started October 25th, and it will come to fruition on November the 4th. But something to remember is that the energies that this particular portal brings will last with us for probably up to 6 months or even longer. And the changes that will come, the changes that we will see as a result of this portal, will be lasting and permanent changes. So just some things to watch for as we're coming through this season of change. Literally, the seasons are changing, and literally our world, our globe, our universe is also changing. So when we go through trauma, we go through deep despair and pain, we oftentimes dream and hope for and wish for something better. And so hope is driven from despair and suffering. And it's important that we know this because despair and suffering is a catalyst for change. And that is what is coming to this earth right now. There is a massive catalyst for change happening. So the thing to remember on that is eclipses bring change, permanent change. Now, I want you to think about, you guys have probably seen the show Extreme Makeover with Ty Pennington, and where they come in, someone is in great need, they need a new home, they need a new outlook on life, they need hope, they've lost hope, they're in the despair phase of their life. And so they send the family off onto a vacation, and then they completely demolish their old home and put up something better, something new, something that will suit their needs 100 times better than what they were doing before. And so when we come through these changes or phases in humanity and on the planet where change comes, we often get scared out of our minds when the change brings demolition. So, but I want you to think about that television show. The demolition phase is not sad or scary. They're not crying or mourning that their house just blew up or fell down, right? So you kind of need to remember it and think about it in the same vein that when we come through these massive quantum shifts in the universe, on the planet, and in our own individual daily lives, these issues, the issues that have been brewing under the surface for a really long time, they're going to blow up. They're going to seem like they're worse than they've ever been before, and you're going to go into that despair phase. But they have to get worse before they get better, right? The demolition phase is purposeful. And so some things that we likely are going to see based on the characteristics of the energy that's coming through this eclipse portal and based on which planets are kind of in alignment and moving closest to the earth, we may see during our demolition phase, during this portal that we're coming through, we may see an increase in inflation, a collapse in systems and economies. We might see some suffering. If you are paying attention to what's going on in the world right now, it's no secret that we literally are headed for some pretty serious famine and illness, and likely some death is gonna ensue because of what gross evil has done on this planet. But this is the demolition phase, and so it's important that we just pay attention that this is demolition. It's preparing space for something better to come along so that we can move into that space of hope. So we may see a lot of shuffling and moving in cosmic proportions, like huge proportions. This eclipse portal in particular is probably one of the most significant changes in electromagnetic energy that this world has seen in over 280 years. So some things to just consider and ponder as we're coming through this demolition phase. I want you to also remember that that with demolition and destruction always comes renewal and restoration. So we are likely going to see and experience on the heels of all of this demolition, compassion, love. This is what demolition and, let me back up just a little bit. This is what it brings, is when we do go through those difficult challenges and the changes and the hardships, it does open up space for things like compassion, love, unity, humility, humanity, and oneness. So the important thing I think to remember is that we need to remember, just like in the show Extreme Makeover, when they tear down the house, they're making space, they're making room to build up something new. So in our world right now, as we're seeing lots of demolition happening, we're making room, we're making space for something new, something better, a new world, a new earth. So it's important that we don't focus on the demolition. It's important that we focus on what we dream and wish for and hope for, the better that's coming, the renewal. It's important that we focus on what is going to emerge out of this demolition. So these injustices that are happening on the earth right now, that you're seeing right before your very eyes, they, to a large degree, as more evil is brought into the light, and we start to see the revelation of dark things that have been operating and happening in the shadows, these injustices will be a catalyst of compassion and love and unity and for change. So just some things to just kind of remember and think about. It's vital that we see all of these things in a positive light. It's vital that we hold out hope that demolition doesn't mean it's the end of something permanently. It means that we're making space for something better than what we've had before. And so it's important that we not get hung up on focusing on who's right and who's wrong, what's good and what's bad. This is a time of upgrading. It's a time of not getting caught in the minutia of it all. So we're going to likely see changes in these kinds of things based on the energies that are coming through this particular eclipse, based on the alignment of where the planets are positioned and what energies are kind of coming into focus. We may see changes in power, world power, global power. I mean, these changes we're seeing are going to happen on a global basis, but they're also going to happen in our societies, our communities, our cultures, and in our families, and in our own individual minds and hearts and bodies. So changes in power, domination, control, censorship, turbulence in the economy, finances, values, and constitution. So these are the predominant energies that are undergoing some severe demolition as we come through this cosmic shift. This is definitely a time to focus on spiritual rebirth, financial rebirth, civilization renewal, up-leveling, and all-out renewal on every level. This is about restoring what we haven't had in a very long time. So this is a time where things are going to be exposed on a planetary level. They will be revealed, and then the last phase is they will be healed and they will be restored. So I love that. So do you guys kind of see what I'm talking about with those polar opposite energies, the binary that's created? It's important that we not spend too much time focusing on the demolition, but that we spend most of our time focusing on the hope of what is going to manifest in its place after demolition has taken place. So we can't focus on the rubble. We can't focus on the dust. We have to stop worrying about what once was. And we got to let go and focus on what is emerging. This is very, 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 very important. And this is how you're going to get through it. Another thing to remember is that this is also a time in planetary shifts where secrets will be revealed. Yeah, Heather says, totally right there with you, Janet. I'm completely on board. Yes, I agree. Thank you so much for sharing. Secrets are going to be revealed. Truth will come to light. We will see shifts in our world systems. We're likely going to also see shifts in the physical aspects of our planet and our bodies. Our physical bodies are going to up-level as well with this. So some things to hope for, some things to focus on as truth comes to light. We will see shifts in all of these systems, including government, economy, religion, society. We're going to start to see big changes and maybe big demolition, right? So, and it's okay. You don't have to freak out just because the world that you once knew is starting to change. It's okay. Just know that something better is trying to emerge. I did some reading about this, did some studying up about this before we actually got on, and I learned that there is a planet in our universe, in our Milky Way galaxy, that they call Manway. It's a dwarf planet. And astrologers, entering people into the room. Astrologers believe that the energy of this dwarf planet is coming closer and closer to our solar system and closer to Earth. And this planet's energy is all about, it represents the highest archangel. It represents the energy that comes the closest to the divine mind and will of God, and to divine intelligence. And so this planet called Manway is here to help us execute God's plan on Earth. That's what they're saying. That's what this energy brings with it, is to execute God's plan on Earth. And we have help. We do. And we're going to have more help than we can even imagine. We know that's coming. So another thing that the energy that this the pull, or like the magnetic pull of this planet brings with it, is it's dedicated to triumph over light over darkness. It's dedicated to that. That is its primary energetic property and function. It's dedicated to a time of renewal. They say that Manway comes around once every 289 years. So this is about massive global shifts. And this is about us being very mindful and very cautious and careful about where we decide to put our energy. Something that was interesting that I read in that same article was that when they sent people out into the in the outer atmosphere of this planet, what they notice, like out of the magnetic field of the Earth, astronauts have noticed that they start having these greater levels of psychic experiences. They have more dreams and more visions, and they're psychically sensitive. And it's just a natural thing that happens to many of them. And something to remember, I think, in all of this is that we don't have to leave this Earth's magnetic plane in order to have the same kinds of experiences, because what geologists are noticing on the Earth is that the poles are shifting. The magnetic field is already dropping. This isn't something to fear. This isn't something to worry about or be scared about or stressed out about. It's not the end of the world. It's a change. It's a shift. It's an up-leveling of the world. So all things physical on the Earth are shifting. Polarity, tectonic plates are shifting. It's allowing for Mother Earth to have space to up-level and to renew and to upgrade. And it's also allowing us to do the same thing, to have these spiritual upgrades in our consciousness, in our beingness. We're going from an old state to a new state. We're emerging from the 3D consciousness to 4D and to 5D consciousness, and even higher levels than that. And so we have to have patience, and we have to be careful about where we put our attention. So I want you to focus on this. This is where we're headed. The physics of light is infinite. When the sun puts out rays of light, and stars do this too, because ultimately they are suns in other solar systems and other galaxies. But when these beings of light in the universe put off billions and billions of tendrils of light, that light goes out infinitely. The rays of light travel through electromagnetic waves, and they intersect and cross, and they go out forever and ever and ever. And this is why you can see stars from billions of miles away, because that light is traveling to your eyes where it finally ends up in your own physical senses where you can see it. So I want you to remember this. Love is the vibration that will build this new house that we're going to live in and on. Love is the vibration that will build it, that will renew and restore this planet. That is where we're headed. And those of us who are waking up at this time in the progression of this earth, we're pioneers on this planet. All of us are. Anybody who's choosing to wake up spiritually at this point in time, you are a pioneer and you have a sacred role and a sacred mission. So it's important. How do we get through these shifts? How do we get through the demolition phase? Every thought, every feeling, every sense needs to be anchored and rooted in love. And if you're not in a state of love, you're in a state of panic and worry and fear and despair and hopelessness, then you need to find ways, you need to get some help. Find ways, tools that will help you return yourself to love. And we're going to go into an exercise today where you're going to do exactly that. But this is when we focus on our feelings and our thoughts and our intentions and our awareness and our consciousness, and all of that stuff is rooted in unlimited, non-limited love, unconditional love, then this is adding to the creation of this new house that we're going to inhabit. And so when we find our way back to love, back to bliss, back to gratitude, back to peace and appreciation, it's adding to this creation process of up-leveling. And so that's kind of my message for today. We have to leverage this turbulence. In fact, let's go back and take a look at the turbulence again. No, that's not it. Let's look at that turbulence, that we're entering into this phase of demolition. It's okay. I want you to know that it's okay that we're entering into this phase, and it's supposed to happen. It's purposeful, but we need to learn how to leverage it. And so in order for us to leverage this phase that we're entering into, we have to be able to rise above it. This is the greatest time in the history of this human planet, in the history of human evolution on this planet. This is a planet that has lived in the 3D consciousness for a long time. Some people 4D, but now we're raising our consciousness, we're raising the vibration, and we will do that work. The people who inhabit and live here are the ones who are going to rebuild this house and make it new. And so it's important to remember that this collapse would not be happening if there was not higher frequencies coming in. It's the higher frequencies, the greater levels of light and love and truth and compassion and spiritual awakening, spiritual up-leveling. It's those frequencies that are coming in that's causing this collapse to happen. These are two very, very different levels of frequency, and they can't occupy the same space. You cannot build a brand new house on top of an old, crappy, crumbling house. You have to tear down the old in order to rebuild the new from the ground up. And so that's what we're seeing. So let me take off screen share here so I can just talk to you and see your beautiful faces. Thank you guys for being here. I welcome your participation. I welcome your comments. I welcome whatever you have to share in light of how do we leverage this demolition phase? How do we get through this? I have a couple of steps that I want to share with you, and then we're going to go into a guided meditation where you can experience this for yourselves. So this eclipse portal is giving us the opportunity to make some very serious changes. And you know what? It can happen very simply. You have the tools to make the powerful impact that you need to on this planet. And the impact that you make as an individual human being is profoundly powerful, and it is enough. And it can change the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people, whether you think you can or not. Your influence is powerful. And so step one, this is just my beliefs. If you have others that you want to add or want to share, I welcome your comments. I welcome your input, because these are just the ones that I came up with at like 5 o'clock this morning. So we have to look at the stories that we tell ourselves. We have to be willing to be honest with the stories that we've been telling ourselves about the past and about our trauma. Emily says, I love the demolition theory. I find myself pushing back feelings of despair, but this way I can instead embrace the demolition phase. Yes. You know, Dave and I have been watching on one of the channels out here. There's a channel that features that show, Extreme Makeover with Ty Pennington, where they send people off on vacation and they come home and they reveal this new house and they're like, bus driver, move that bus. And just see the people, like some of these people have lived so humbly in such despair and such hopelessness for so long, that to see them receive the hand up and to get a reset and to just have a new outlook on life is so inspiring. I love that show. And I think about this shift, these changes that we're all seeing on the earth right now. Everybody's seeing it. You have to be living under a rock to not see how every system, even the physical, is changing and shifting. So we have to, if we're going to get through this personally, we have to introspect, we have to go inside, and we have to see what are the stories that we're telling ourselves about our trauma and our demolition and our destruction. Who's hurting you? Who's harming you? Who's stepping all over your agency? Who is defaming your good name? Who has been abusive and rejected you? Who has done these things to you to hurt you? And what are the stories that you tell yourself in your mind about these things? Are you going into despair and hopelessness and hurt and pain and suffering over it? So our stories that we tell ourselves will show us exactly what we hope for. So again, like we said before, where we have those two polar opposites between despair and hope, what we are despairing is giving you perfect information as to what you actually do hope for. So it's in those times of desperation and suffering and humility that we do hope for something better. Well, what is that? So I want you to get out your pencils and papers right now. And I want you to write down on a piece of paper, split it in two, and I want you to write on the first part of the paper, despair. What do I have to despair about in my life? And be real and be honest. What are the stories that I'm telling everybody about how I'm going through suffering, how bad my life is? So go ahead, write those things down, get very clear on what is disparaging in your life. And then on the opposite side of the page, after you draw that line, I want you to write down hope. What do you hope for? How do you hope that this plays out? What kind of a new house do you hope to build? What kind of a new earth do you hope to live in? What will society look like? What will the world look like? What will the systems and the cultures and the civilization look like? I really want you to get clear on that. Tons of clarity. What will your family situation look like? What will your relationships with all people, what will that look like? So take a moment to just jot down what is disparaging to you, what brings you despair, and then also look at that deeply and go, okay, so with that in mind, this is what I don't want. Come over to the side of the page where you know what you do want. What do you hope for? This is faith. This is an exercise in faith, deep faith, because I'm going to teach you how you will ultimately create that kind of change as we come through these shifts, these planetary shifts. And this, of all times on the earth, is the time to do it as we come through these cosmic shifts. This is the best time to leverage the demolition that we're seeing. Your despair, oops, there we go. Your despair will help you to draw upon great detail of what you do hope for. Why are you suffering? How much does it hurt? Why does it hurt that much? And so in this process, you got to be really willing to be honest with yourself. You have to be willing to humble yourself and examine what hurts and why it hurts. Is it because somebody else harmed you or wronged you or shamed you or shunned you? Or is it because you yourself fell out of alignment with loving feelings? And how can you return yourself to love? My husband and I are going through some real challenges right now in some relationships that we have with people, where they have accused us of things, hard things, hurtful things, that aren't necessarily true in our minds, but we're being shamed and shunned for those kinds of things. And these are close people to us that we know well, and they should know us better than that. And so when it's closer to home and when the relationships are really sensitive like that, then it can hurt deeply. And so after having a conversation with one of these people in particular that's close to us, we got off the phone after they kind of said some hurtful things to us. And I said to my husband, you know what we got to do, don't you? And he said, what? And I said, we have to find a way to return our hearts back to a state of love for her, so that every time we think about her, every time we see her, every time we're in her presence, we feel nothing but love, non-limited love and gratitude and joy. That's not easy to do, but it's vital. It's vital, because when we focus on the demolition of things, that's what you're going to get more of. So we got to be willing to really humble ourselves and look deeply within and introspect and say to ourselves, okay, what is the story? What is the story I'm telling about everybody about how hurt I am and the pain I'm going through and the sorrow that I experience, and it's all their fault? Where are you trying to cover up despair in your life? When people ask you how you're doing, do you really say, or do you just say, I'm fine, and move on with your life? Are you really honest with yourself and with others? Minnie says, it seems that those who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones that hurt you, and very meanly. Yeah, it can hurt. The closer to home it gets, the closer to your heart those relationships are, when there's betrayal and rejection and abuse even, that can be painful, because you think these people should know me better. They shouldn't, of all people on the planet, they should know my heart, and they don't. And so, yeah, sometimes that hurts. But the goal for you then, if you're the one that's hurting, the goal is for you to find a way back into the energy of love. And that's really where I want to focus our attention today as we go into our meditation in a little bit after we come through these steps. So how do you connect with the language that allows us to pierce through our illusions and deceit and despair? Where are you lying to yourself? I'll give you guys just a minute to just jot down some ideas to get real in your own self. Go within and really be honest with yourself. Tell yourself the truth. So we do this, we get humble, we get truthful, we get real, so that we can access the deeper parts of ourselves. Because that's where power is. That's where your power is. That's where your genius is. That's where everything you think you want or need lives. So we got to be proactive at revealing the dark shadows that we carry. And And as we're coming through even this crappy Halloween portal that we just came through, the energy of that is awful. Many of the people that I work with have been calling me saying, are you getting through this Halloween portal okay? Because this is really kicking my trash. But it's important that we recognize and reveal the ghosts that are haunting our dreams and our hopes, that are sabotaging our dreams and our hopes. Okay, so see if you can get clear on that. See if you can jot some ideas on that stuff down as you go in. You may have to take time away from this class and really go into that exercise. So the experiences that we've had that cause us PTSD and trauma, how have you then, as you've come through PTSD, as you've come through traumatic experiences, how have you tried to protect yourself and put up walls and put up boundaries and barriers to hide the hurt or to protect yourself from further hurts? This solar eclipse that we're coming through is all about truth coming into the light. So secrets are going to be revealed. Your internal demons are going to come to the surface. Lori has a comment. Go ahead.
I'm driving while I'm listening to you. Sorry about popping in and out. When I heard about the eclipse and I heard it was October 25th, I thought, oh, cool, it's my birthday. It's going to be something wonderful that's going to happen. And then you and I talked after on the 26th when it wasn't such a wonderful thing that happened, and just for people that don't know what I'm talking about, I had an experience where I was by myself, I was choking, and I could not get oxygen. And, when we talk about a shift, that experience for me as a widow taught me about love. That experience taught me that when I think that I'm all by myself, that there was divine intervention. And I know that the only way that what was lodged in my windpipe moved was because my husband came and he did something. And so for me, the shift isn't about negative. It's about, well, I guess when you're talking about certain things, I guess there's times that I still feel like I'm alone. And unfortunately, I had to have an extreme experience where God is saying, Lori, you're not alone. And guess what? I'm going to take you to an extreme to show you, hey, your husband's closer than you think. So do not despair.
Thank you for sharing that. So here in this portal, it was your birthday of all days. You almost died. I mean, you kind of underplayed this experience, but you almost died. And you could have very well died had heaven not come to your rescue and showed you that you aren't alone. So I love this dichotomy. I love this. You can see the binary here, how you went through this feeling of despair and hopelessness. You were all alone and almost lost your life because of it. And then all of a sudden sweeps in the miracle, the tender mercy, the evidence of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Wow. And that is where we're going. That's where I want us to shift our focus, is on what you hope for and what you, the miracles that are available to you.
And I mean, for me, since that experience, I have looked at things differently. I have taken a completely new perspective. I guess it took almost dying for me to realize and to do some deeper searching into, there's lots of things like you were talking about, shifts and changes going on in the world. How am I going to do this moving forward without despair and without getting stressed out? And it's like, just do the best I can, do what I can and have control of, and just know that, Martin isn't that far away. If anything ever got extreme, boom, he's there.
Yeah.
So it's like, everybody, the veil is very thin. We just don't realize how close our loved ones are on the other side to us. But I just want to tell you that from my own experience, the veil is thin and we are not alone, even when you feel alone.
Yeah. Oh, and of all times on this planet right now, as we're coming through, this is such a quantum and cosmic shift that we're seeing in all of the history of this world. This is a massive up-leveling. It's a massive opportunity for us to experience what you just talked about, Lori, the evidence of things not seen, the evidence that we are not alone, and we have more help with us than we have ever had in the history of this planet. And that's where our focus needs to be. And I see Toby Lynn has a comment too. Yes, I love that you guys are participating. So go ahead, Toby Lynn.
It's interesting, some of the things that are happening. One of the things that my son, about 5 days ago, I guess maybe even a week ago, we were in conversation all the time, every day. And then he went missing. No hear from him, no nothing. Of course, things started going through my mind that were negative. Maybe he went and got back into addictions. Maybe he did this, maybe he did that. Maybe he's running from the law. And the Lord put it on my heart. Stop thinking negative. You will never find him if you do. And I remember when, this is about 20 years ago, I had a word of prayer because I was struggling really, really hard. And I said, Heavenly Father, I need something. I need to know how to be a mom. I don't know how to give my children what they need. And Heavenly Mother came, wrapped her arms around me, and every light, every color went through me. And all she said to me was, remember who you are. And in that moment, I remembered who my son was, that he was the Son of God. And I started focusing on the positive of that. And I energetically, I put out my feelers to go, where is he? And I finally was able to connect to his energy. And within an hour, he called me. He was in the hospital. He was in a major 180 vehicle collision. He was in the back seat, strapped in. He was sleeping. It was in the middle of the night, about 4 o'clock in the morning. And when he was in the hospital and nobody knowing what happened to him because he wasn't talking. When I talked to him last night, because I finally was able to find her and bring him home, the people that were driving left him there, strapped in his seatbelt. The front of the truck was caved in, almost touching the back of the seat, almost where he was. The bed of the truck was folded up in half. And he said he had to burn the seatbelt in order to get out. And a truck driver found him and called an ambulance for him because he was sitting in the ditch and he didn't know what, in the middle of the highway actually, and the truck driver almost ran him over. Again, if I had thought negatively, it would have brought more negative to him. However, because I started seeing who he was, started remembering what my Heavenly Mother told me, remember who you are. Remember who you are, the truth, because we are beings of love. Mm-hmm. We are beings of light. We are beings of hope. Which brings me to another thing that I went through. You talked about trauma. I remember when I was in trauma, I was struggling, I was suffering, I was at the pit of my despair. And I remember I had talked to a life coach, and he said, you were never touched when those men raped you. And I went, and I said to him, I remember saying to him, if I could come through this phone, I'd punch you right in the head, because I know that 4 men beat me with 2x4s and raped me. And he goes, you were never touched. And I went, what? He goes, your spirit was never touched. Yeah. Your physical body went through the destruction. Yeah. Yet your spiritual self was never touched. And that is what helped me get through trauma. That's what changed and transformed, because then I was clean. I was pure. I was never violated. My body was. I was never violated. Yeah. Travis, my son, went through really difficult things, yet his spirit stood beside him. His spirit was never violated. We have to remember, at our core, we were never been violated. We have to remember who we are.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Toby Lynn. And yeah, thank you for those comments, and Lori too. All right. Heather says, I'm realizing that I'm hurt because I believed them that what accusations they point at me were about me. but the accusations are really a projection of something that they are dealing with or not wanting to see about themselves. Yeah. How people feel about you or see you is really none of your business, because it's a reflection of how they're seeing themselves or what's going on inside of them. Yes, this eclipse portal or this eclipse has been painful, but I'm so grateful for what is showing up, is helping me choose to let go and overcome. I would say it's a very mindful choice to rise and overcome, rise above and overcome. Yes, it is a mindful choice, and you've got to be very present. You've got to be very much in the state of gratitude and humility. If you're going to rise above the lower level emotions that are going to plague you as you come through this, because there's going to be a lot of emotion. Katie says, thank you for saying that about the Halloween portal. Totally in recovery mode today. Very thankful for this healing group. Also been seeing testing after testing, like God is reminding me to tune in to Christ center and to trust him. The intensity of this energy or shifting is a doozy. Yes, it is a doozy. Okay, so we talked about step one, which is pay attention to the stories you tell yourself, and are you willing to let that stuff go? All the wounding that you've had in your past, and maybe even right now, you willing to let those stories go so that you can overcome and be honest with yourself. And like Toby Lynn said, tap into the infinite aspects of yourself, because that part of yourself cannot die. It can't lose anything. It can't run out of time. It can't have anything taken from it. And so there is no threat to the infinite levels of you. Kim says, I grapple with my daughter, and thank you so much, Toby Lynn. Your comments have helped me. Good job. Okay, so we all have to ask ourselves, as we're going through these hard things, someone almost dying, someone in a car accident, someone going through gang rape, and whatever other traumas come, and you know, your traumas, big or small, they are going to bring up emotional upset in the body. Your body's going to respond with emotion. And so we have to ask ourselves, can I do this? Can I really rise above these emotions? Or am I going to get stuck and lost in the lower level emotions? Can I humble myself enough? Maybe write this question down for yourselves. Can I humble myself enough to really honestly look at myself or be seen as I am? What parts of you have you hid from the world because of your trauma and drama? What parts of you have you swallowed back down? Do you hold back a portion of yourself because you don't want to be seen? You don't want to be hurt because you're afraid, insecure? What? Write some of those things down. Let's get some clarity going so that we can tap into our higher selves. What parts of you do you not allow to come out? What parts of you are wrapped up in guilt and shame, and you don't want that part of yourself to be seen by the world, and so you hide? What aspects of you are you protecting? Again, hiding again because of trauma or drama. What aspects of you are you protecting because you don't want to be hurt, or you don't want to be seen, or you don't want to be vulnerable, or whatever? What ghosts have hijacked, and I find this interesting that this comes up around Halloween, but what ghosts have hijacked your dreams and your hopes and your desires? You got to get very clear on what your hopes and your desires even are. That's why I had you do that exercise at the beginning of this session. How can you show up, speak up, stand up for those hidden aspects of yourself? It's important that we show up in a way that we can be supportive of ourselves, our higher selves. And like Toby Lynn said, we've talked about this probably a million times in these sessions. And if you don't know this by now, then you're not paying attention. But the solution is to come to know yourself in all ways. The solution is to wake up to your higher self. The solution is to learn who you really are and what you're really about and where you're really going. So,
Jen,
yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that just came to my mind as you said one of your questions there, what I wrote on my page was, can I humble my natural self enough to allow my higher self to step forward and take the wheel?
That is perfect. That is perfect. I hope somebody writes that down. Can you repeat it one more time just so that people can write it down?
Can I humble my natural self enough to allow my spirit, my higher self, my spiritual self, to step forward and take the wheel? And one of the things when I was working with a person just the other day, when we were doing some work, we did have to get into what lies she was telling herself and why she was wanting people to see her less than who she really was. What she was doing was she was using the victim mentality to get help instead of using her creative talent, creative mentality to find what she needed.
Yeah.
And as we started unraveling that lie, all of a sudden I could see in my mind's eye a rock, like a hard, solid rock with light trying to break through. And we kept talking, and I do this work quite a bit, and this time, and it's become quite easy for me. However, when I was working with her, I had to work very, very hard because the lies kept wanting to tangle up around this light. And as we kept pulling the darkness off this light, all of a sudden I could see her higher self shine and step forward and say, thank you for breaking me free from the limitations, the lies, the lies, limitations, and distractions. That the focus was more on the dark than the light. So when we ask ourselves, what are we willing to humble our natural self to our higher self so that it can step forward and take over?
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. I love the imagery that you shared in that. It's easy to grasp when you put it in those terms of basically how you saw it in your mind's eye. Minnie says, I have to remember that we all are in a different place. This eclipse has been tough. I have someone in my life that I thought really knows me, but has attacked me this week with very mean, untrue things. This person knows better as she makes a living in theta and spiritual arts. She's supposed to have insight, but we all can have times where we cannot see for our own weakness, through our own weakness. Yeah. Agreed. I'm seeing that too in my practice as I'm working with people one-on-one. So many people, like, this is a pattern and we're seeing it. It's because this is what we're going through on the earth. But one of the patterns is betrayal energy, secrets being revealed, secrets being told about you, maybe that aren't even true. And then bringing those things, trying to bring those things into light, bringing truth deep within you, that untrue stories that you've told about yourself, maybe insecurities, lack, limitation, whatever. Okay, so we learn to relate to the world through the lens of what feels safe to us and what does not. So we will often hide those vulnerable aspects or parts of ourselves in order that we can feel safe or continue to feel safe. But it's a false safety, it's a false security. And as we mature, then what we can do is we can choose to let go of this resistance. So spiritual maturity allows you an opportunity to start to let go of some of those things that the lies that you've been telling yourself. And when you do that, like Toby Lynn said with this client that she had, when you start to do that, you start to break free from those lies that you've told yourself, and you're standing in front of the mirror naked, looking at the honesty of who you really are and what you're capable of, and your gifts and your talents begin to emerge and they show up. It's impactful, it's intense, it's purposeful. It's important that we go through these kinds of shifts. And again, like I said at the beginning of the class, this polarity that's being formed, like the difference or the contrast between the despair and the hope, that it has to be that way because it acts as a catalyst for change, for transmuting lower vibrational energies and bringing them up to a higher frequency, a higher vibration. We can do this collectively as a whole world. So step 2 is, once you've gotten very clear and very honest with yourself, is letting go. You got to let this stuff go. You got to be willing to let go of relationships, the need to be right, the need to be seen, the need to be validated. We have to be willing to let go of the things that we once hoped for and wished for or expected, and just let people show up however they do, and let life unfold the way that it does. But letting go of the resistance is what allows for flow and for change to then come in, if you're focused on the hope. Shauna says, how do we help another person who acts out in anger within our family? Or if they continue to act out, how can we overcome that? Love. Love is the great transmuter. Love is the great energy that will transmute those lower vibrational energies into something better, higher, those higher frequencies that will create a shift and a change. Hey, Toby Lynn, go ahead.
So one of the things, when I did pick my son up at the hospital, he had been sleeping for 3 days. The doctors were very concerned as to why he was still sleeping. Thank goodness he had no broken bones. It was a miracle. All I can say was a miracle. However, when I was there and I started talking to my son, the hospital noises, being in the hospital, had started grating on his nerves. And he got out of bed, and I traveled 3 hours to go get him. And he said, why'd you even come get me? You're just going to be a nag. And he just went on and on and on. And I had to stand there, and I said, you know what, son, if you're going to keep talking to me like this, I will leave, because I'm not going to put up with abuse. And one of the things in our families, we create these patterns. And me and him have had a pattern of him abusing to get what he wants. And I mean by abusing, yelling, swearing, being derogatory. And we have to own that we created those dynamics. We have to forgive ourselves and then allow ourselves to stand up, because I've had to do this with family members, especially, saying, you may not talk to me like that anymore. I will not be putting up with it. I'm sorry I helped you create this with me. I want something better for us. Do you want something better for us? And I know that he was panicked, he was scared. There was lots of things going on for him. However, as I stood in that firmness of love and said, I will not allow this to continue. It's not healthy for either one of us. And it even went out into the hallway, and the nurse even said, we're going to have to call security if you can't stop swearing, sir. However, I had to stand solid and say, son, you need to look at your behavior. I am not yelling at you. I am not attacking you. I am not saying anything negative. What is happening for you? And then he started getting frustrated and saying, all these noises, the bed even, it moves, it sighs, and hospital beds are not fun. Hospital food is not fun. All the noises and the dings and the bings and the pokings, it's not fun. However, I see that in families, we have to recognize that we helped create the problem. Mm-hmm. And that we have to help stand up for love and say, you know what, I'm sorry I did this. Please forgive me. I forgive myself. Can you forgive me? And what do we want moving forward?
Yeah.
That's what I see that needs to happen in families, especially right now.
Yeah. What do you want to see? What do you want to see different? What are the changes that you'd like? In fact, this is step 3, actually. So thank you for sharing that. And this hopefully will answer your question, Shauna, is that you got to take responsibility and ownership for what you have participated in and created. And then you got to desire the changes. You have to be clear on what you would like to see be different, and the shifts that you want to move in the direction of, because if you don't know where you want to go, you won't get there. So what do you want to have more of? That's a good question to ask yourself as you write it down on your piece of paper or in your journal. What do I want to see more of or have more of? Okay. What do you want to integrate? What would you like to improve? Get clear on that. And the other thing too that I recommend, when there's anger coming up in family units, in a family dynamic, maybe separation for a short time, but then teaching tools. And some of the best tools are becoming introspective, going within and being humble enough to see, okay, what did I do? How did I participate? What is my role in this? And what do I want to have? How do I want to see this be different? I find for me, when those things happen in my circle of influence and there's nothing I can do about it, I can't control those people. I can't turn off their anger. I can't make them be loving and kind to each other. I can clear it up inside of me. So Shauna, one thing you can do is, we call it Ho'oponopono. We've done it before. I'm sure you know what it is, but basically returning your own self to the energy of love by just repeating the phrase, I love you, over and over and over. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what's going on inside of me right now that's maybe contributing to this situation. Please forgive me. Thank you. So I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Repeating that over and over until you start to feel an energetic shift inside of your own body. But you got to go within. You got to be honest with what's going on inside of you. Okay, step 4 is, what is stopping you? What's holding you back from that which you really want? Once you get clear on what it is that you want, what is stopping you? Let's get clear on that. What's the obstacles that are in your path and in your way? What are you afraid of? So fear will usually be a good indicator of what's in your way, what's stopping you and preventing you. And then number 5, the last one, or no, the second last one is, what is the impact that these obstacles are having on you? Is it taking away your agency? Is it stepping on your ability to move forward? Is it messing with boundaries and sovereignty? So you kind of have to look at, okay, how is this impacting me and what am I going to do about it? So the last step is step 6. I have several questions that I'm going to have you maybe jot down in your journal as you get really reflective on this. How much is this affecting your life? What is the easiest thing that you can do right now to change? What is the easiest thing that you can do right now to bring change and return yourself back to a state of love? What solutions are available to me? Maybe make a list. What steps could be taken to move me into that energy of love again, so that I can have love for whoever is triggering you? What steps could be taken? Where could you start? Allow for that momentum to start to play out. This should support you over the next 6 months, because this energy that we're coming through with this eclipse portal, it's gonna play out for about 6 months, even though the fruition of the actual passing of planets and celestial bodies will end on the 4th of November. We're going to see the effects of this still continue to play out. So I have a couple things to keep in mind of, let's just reiterate 3 things. Let's just boil this down to 3 steps. So the first step, in my opinion, would be to get clear on the bigger picture. So anytime you take an eternal perspective on something and see it from a bigger, broader, more expanded light, the easier it is to kind of process your way through things. So get clear on the bigger picture. Higher frequencies are coming in, and the high frequencies and the low frequencies cannot operate in the same space. And so we're going to see collapse and destruction and demolition happen because that shift is taking place. So just know that it's okay, that it's all collapsing right before your very eyes. It's not the end of the world. It's just a transition that we're going through. And you can help with the up-leveling of this earth in creating this new house for us to live in. 2, let something go. Be willing to let something go. Your bitterness, your sadness, your heartbreak, your stories. Be willing to move yourself back into a state of love and gratitude again. One of the things that I did after I said to my husband, you know what we have to do now. We're going to have to find a way back into loving energy so that we can feel love in our bodies again. when we're around this person or these people, and when we think about them, we're going to have to go to great lengths to move ourselves back into a state of love, because love wins. And love is the higher frequency that's coming in. And if we want the big, beautiful mansion to move into, as far as after the demolition occurs, then we've got to put in that work and return ourselves to love. And you can do that easiest by letting go of bitterness, sadness, shame, guilt. There's lots of ways to do that. I'm going to take you into an exercise right now where you can experience some of that. So I want you to just slow your breath down, get into your body, become very present. The goal is to return ourselves to love. And then also be ready and be willing to accept permanent changes that are coming, because they are coming. Get into your body. I want you to just breathe and take your attention and your awareness and drop down, down, down below your heart. So I want you to think of the space just below your heart and breathe into that space. Drop your shoulders. Letting go, letting go. On the exhale, I want you to let go of tension, because tension is an indicator that you're holding on to resistance in your body somewhere. So let that go. You're letting go of bitterness and shame and guilt and grief and sorrow and anger and whatever you're storing in those tense muscles. Breathe in, breathe out. Slow down the exhale. Drop your attention and your awareness inside, go within. And I want you to drop all the way down to below the sternum into your upper stomach and breathe into that space. On the exhale, drop your shoulders. You can roll your head around a little bit. That helps to open space a little. It helps to notice, oh, there's tension there. I didn't even notice. You can roll your shoulders if you want to. It'll help you to notice whether there's tension in your back or your neck or your jaw or your face. Close your eyes and notice if there's stress or tension in your eyes. Let that go. Surrender. You have to be willing to surrender control. You don't get to control the universe. That's not your job. Your job is to be in a state of non-resistance and love, because that's who you are. A free flowing, loving being of light. That is who and what you are. Dropping down even more, deeper into the body, into the lower stomach, breathe into that space. And as you do, continue to release tension in your back, your neck, your face, your eyes, behind your eyes. On the exhale, let it go. Go ahead and surrender. Soften those muscles. Let go, let go, let go. On the exhale, I want you to think the word surrender. I want you to surrender into your body. I want you to allow your higher self to come into the body. So let's just call our higher selves into the body for a minute. You can say, I am. Dropping your awareness and your attention down, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper as you call your higher self in. This divine intelligence that you are, call it in to your body. Just say, I am, and bring it in down through your skull and behind your face and down your throat, into your heart, down through the upper stomach, the lower stomach. Breathing that part of you in. You can also do it by saying your own name. So as you're breathing and softening and surrendering and dropping down inside of your body, just say your name, Janet. Janet, and let your name drop down, down, down the spine, deep into your hips and your legs. And let all of that higher self energy go down the legs and the ankles and the feet, all the way under your feet. So now your higher self is fully in. So now that your higher self is fully in, all the way down the legs and the feet and under the feet, I want you to feel yourself occupying your body. I want you to feel yourself taking up space in your body. So as you breathe now, I want you to just invite the light to just kind of push out, expand, like you stepped into the center of the sun and the sun stepped into the center of you. Breathe into that expanse. I want you to feel yourself getting bigger. I want you to feel yourself taking up more space. I want you to feel yourself filling up the room. I want you to notice what that feels like when your essence, your energy, your spirit pushes out on the exhale. Use that exhale to push your light out, touching the floor and the walls and the ceiling and the corners, and then going out into the universe. Letting go of resistance. Keep breathing. Dropping let's anchor your awareness into the hips at the base of the spine. Just be anchored there. At least a portion of your awareness should be there. Breathe and soften. Continue with that breath. Breathe in, breathe out. And just let go, let go, let go of all the tension, let go of all the resistance, let go of all the sadness, let go of all of the emotion. You can feel it and then go ahead and release it when you're done feeling. Just notice what you feel, notice where the heaviness is, notice where the density is, notice where your body feels more dense, compacted, restricted, resistance in your body. That's dense energy. And just invite that energy to let go. Okay, now we're going to do 15 fire breaths to just kind of jet the pipes. We want energy to start moving. We want to prime the pump, right? So we call this the pump in the body. And so let's just prime the pump by doing 15 fire breaths. They go in through the nose. You can actually breathe in through the nose and the mouth at the same time if that helps you, if you have a plugged nose or something. And then out through the mouth. And use your stomach to push that out. Like you're blowing a feather across the room. We're going to do 15 and it's going to go about this fast. You'll go in, out, in, out, in, out. Ready, go. Don't hold your breath. Keep your breath fluid. Keep it going in and then right back out. Nice big inhale, drinking in lots of liquid light. On the exhale, push your light out and expand. Drop your attention down to the base of the spine. That's where stability, safety, and that's your foundation. So we want to go to the base of the spine. It's also a connecting point. It's a portal to your higher self. So let's just drop down and into the base of the spine. Think about your tailbone. That's it. Just put awareness there. That's all you have to do. And breathe. When your attention is within and you're dropped down and you're anchored in and you're breathing intentionally, you are clearing and processing and releasing gunk. You're clearing, processing, releasing gunk. You're letting go. So continue to let go, continue in that breath. Make sure your awareness is dropped down to the base of the spine, or you can go under your feet if that helps you to feel more grounded, more stable, more in that foundational place. Now, your job now that you're in, that you're connected. This is you. This is your higher self. Would you guys be willing to type into the chat box what it feels like now to be in your body, to be connected to your higher self, to be expanding out Would you be willing to share some adjectives? Just give me adjectives, whatever you can come up with. One word or one line. And as I wait for you to do that, the last step is to be ready to accept these permanent changes by going into a state of non-resistance. And he says, light. Good. Yeah, if you feel lighter, you know you've released some density. You know that you've transformed energy. You've raised the frequency of it because it feels lighter. Gratitude, love, good job. This is where we're going. This is the energy that you need to be in if we're going to affect positive change, and if we're going to survive the changes that are already coming and are upon us universally, globally, systemically, societally. Okay, good. Desire to be forgiving, gratitude and love. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, isn't that powerful? So this feeling that you're feeling inside of your body that feels lighter, that feels more fluffy, that feels more forgiving, that feels more grateful and loving, that as you're dropped down deep in your body and your attention is within, somewhere inside of you, as you start feeling these lighter, more fluffy feelings, that's you. That's you. That's what it feels like to be connected to you. This is the key. This is the key for how to get through these seasons of change, is to be. Stop worrying about the doing. Stop pushing through your life with brute force. Start just being. Start practicing just being, connected to your soul, connected to your spirit. Paying attention to what that feels like as you go within and as you access the deeper levels of your being. That's where divine intelligence lives. That's where your God self dwells. That's where your gifts and your talents start to show up. That's where your power to manifest the miracles in your life that you're seeking for, the hopes. So here's a little formula: faith, hope, charity, but I'm going to reverse the order. Hope, faith, charity. When you have a hope or an intention or a desire, and you know you want to go in that direction of this newly remodeled house that we just talked about, right? We're going through this demolition. We have to be sure that we're not getting ourselves wrecked by the demolishing. It has to happen. It's a part of the process. So be okay with that happening. Be okay with your butt getting kicked. It's all right. It's supposed to be there in order for this transition to manifest to fruition. And so your job is to create hope. What do you hope for? What do you wish for? What would you like to see? How would you like to experience the world? I had a conversation just yesterday with a friend of mine who was talking about the golden age in Greek mythology, and he was learning about it in 7th grade. And he said, as we were going through the chapter and the teacher is reading this section on the golden age, which basically is what we all hope for as we come through these transitions and this collapse, is like a Zionistic society, a society that's built on love, godly principles. It's bringing God's kingdom to the earth is what's happening. And for centuries, civilizations have talked about this time on the planet with gusto. I mean, everybody looks forward with faith for this time. So I want you to get very clear on what you think it's supposed to look like. How will that love transition into civilization? And just be open to what God shows you, open to what comes your way. And as you're open to what comes into your space and into your life, have an open heart and an open mind, and be willing to realize the old systems that have governed this planet for centuries, the old authoritarian systems that have governed this planet are going to be exposed and revealed for what they really are, founded in lies and fear and guilt and shame. And as that gets exposed for what it really is, the power to bring in light to replace what once was, and love and a godly society. That's our opportunity. So as we have these kinds of transitions, and there will be many transitions just like this one. This is a very historic time that we're coming through on this planet, this season of the Earth's life, of her physical body. And so I highly recommend that you stay in that state of love and lightness and gratitude and forgiveness and hope. Hope, faith, charity. Always move yourself back into a place of charity, constantly focusing on where you're going, not where you've been and not what's being destroyed. And that is it for me today. I'm glad that you guys joined me on this class today. Thank you for your participation. Thank you again. If you want the replay to all of these classes, please find me over at janetthurgood.com and /courses, and you can find the courses that house all the replays for the year 2022. When we move into next year, I will be taking the price tag off of these classes. They will be more available to you over on my YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch all the replays for next year over on that channel. And so prepare for that. We won't have too many more classes like this left in this year. So let's take full advantage. Invite your friends and family to the next classes if you think they could get benefit from hearing these things and talking about these kinds of things. I appreciate you all being here, and thanks for those who shared. Okay. Mwah.